Hi everybody, Matty here from BDCTV. We have another great episode of On the Sofa with coming your way very shortly. But before we get into it, as always, I'm going to ask you to check out our social media. You'll find all of the links in the description below. So check those out and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, BDCTV. This way you won't miss any of the amazing content that we have coming your way. Anyway, speaking of amazing content, we have some coming up right now. We have On the Sofa with the fabulous Mike Heaton from Embrace. How you doing, Mike?
How you doing, Matty? You all right?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks for popping in.
No problem at all. Pleasure.
How's things?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, really good. Just another busy year with both Embrace and code and teaching and recording and just stuff. Yeah, but it's all good.
But that's good. I always say this, and I think it's actually one of my own sayings. I've not stolen it from somebody. Will say, no, he's nicked that for me. But I'd always say I'd rather be looking at work than looking for it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, indeed. So, sometimes I wish I was hiding from work.
But, it can be arranged every now and then.
But no, it's also cool.
You know, amazing. So we're here in the factory. It doesn't look like it. It looks like some very extravagant studio. Well, it is a very extravagant studio. It just happens to be in the middle of a drum factory. Now, I know you've recently had a new kit.
Yes, indeed.
So tell us a little about said new kit.
Well, it's because I was talking to Keith about because I've got a Legend that was this hand painted one by an artist friend of mine, which is fantastic, phenomenal kit. It's 24, 13, 16.
Is this the one with it looks like not flames, but
yeah, that's it.
Is it flames?
No, what it is?
It's hard to...
It's the guy who did it for us. He when we did our 20th anniversary. 20th anniversary, the first album, we did a live album. And this friend of mine, Chubb he's called, he went to art school when he was like a teenager, and then does all film for sport and stuff, and hadn't done the art for years, but got back into it, and I saw the stuff he was doing, and it was a bit Pollock-esque, that sort of style. And I said, well, maybe could you maybe do a version of our first album sleeve, but in your style. So he did it, and everyone loved it with loads of colours and stuff, because the cover was shot in New York years ago, and he sort of painted it and colorised it and all this, and then we used that for the live album, and I just loved the way it looked, and I said, could you maybe like paint some shells for me? And we did a test one, which was snare drum first, and it came out amazingly. So yeah, he did the whole lot, painted it. And then I think Fraz put about 20 layers of lacquer on it, and it looks fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's a Bovril kit. Some people look at it and go, "Wow, it's amazing." Some go, "Jesus, it's like somebody's been sick on it." But it's phenomenal, and it sounds great. Because before that, I had one of the original Legend kits. Yeah. I just love the sound of it. The birch, just plenty of attack. Yeah. But I wanted to try and get sort of more warmth for going forward, so and a bit more depth as well. And I think it was here I was talking to Matthews maybe about the sound of the lounge bass drums particularly.
Oh yeah.
So and also I love the new the vintage hoops. Yeah. And I actually reduced my sizes for the first time in years. So I went to a 22, 12, 16. Yeah. And with a hanging tom rather than the tom in the snare basket, and just love it absolutely. As soon as I because I put some great heads on it, code.
Yeah, of course.
But no,
we'll get there.
Put them on, tuned it up, and the bass drum, I just hit it. Yeah, and I sent Keith a message saying, "Blimey, it's 22 rather than 24, and just all the warmth." And then the toms, I love it. I'm literally in there in my little studio every day, sitting down, playing on it. So it's a fantastic kit.
And obviously, slightly reduced sizes. Do you find that logistically easier to get around rather than, a 24 and a 14, did you say, on the other one?
It was 13, 16.
Oh, 13, 16, right, okay.
I'm getting older, I'm shrinking. So no, I've always, because I'm not very tall, and I've always had a slight problem because I've got it's not a BDC one, but I've got a vintage Ludwig kit with 26-inch bass drum because I'm Bonham freak.
Of course,
I've got 26, 14, 16, 18, and the problem is when you've got the 26, you've got the toms are quite deep sizes.
Needs to be over here somewhere.
You got it really high, all right over there. And I was just thinking, I want something that's more, I don't know, ergonomically sort of, for my, in terms of how I can play. So I kind of thought, yeah, I can get the 12 over there. And it was another drummer. It was James from Nothing But Thieves.
Okay.
And another couple of drummers, and they're using 12-inch racks. And I was always paranoid about not having the depth and the kind of being able to get the really low tones out of them, because I have them tuned quite low as well, just for that sort of thud.
Sure.
Yeah, I set it up and pitching it going. Does everything I need to do. I can get to it. I can get around the kit. So the facility around the kit's better. You know, I can reach things more easily. Yeah. I think I might have to go back to a 24 kick, but I don't know.
What, for gigs and things?
Yeah, I just, as much for, I don't know, the 22s, I've been so used to using 24, it just looks a bit small. I don't know. You know, it's just got that, but I do love it. So I'm going to use it for for this year, for the festivals.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And we've got a 25th anniversary date at Peace Hall that we're doing in July, which is which is fantastic. That's all sold, and then I think we're doing a 25th anniversary tour later on in the year as well. Because it's all those years on from the first record now.
And what snare are you on?
I flip between the Bluebird, Merlin, and the one that was hand painted was actually a lounge series. But at the moment, I would say the Bluebird is kind of what I'm using most. You know, I won't lie, I've always been a fan of the Black Beauty.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think that the Bluebird sort of captured that sound and for me improved it. I found the Bluebird easier to tune than the Black Beauty, basically. And it sounds great, so yeah.
It seems to be the go-to.
Yeah, well, I've got on the two kits I've got set up in the studio at the moment, I've got the Merlin on one, and the Bluebird on the other, and I flip between the two because I teach between the two kits and stuff. So and also it depends obviously on choice of head on each. You know, sometimes I'll go single ply, sometimes twin. You know, and it's kind of I don't know. I like to change things up quite a lot.
Well, it keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like to sort of move around the ranges. Yeah. And obviously with code I can kind of just move around what I want and just try different things and different combinations. Basically, I get bored quite easily.
I think we're all good. So where did music catch fire for you? What was the beginnings for you?
The beginnings. I've got an older brother who's 4 years older, and so he naturally got into music before me, and he was a big fan of prog, which he did get me into. But come 10 years old, it was punk that got me. The Pistols, Clash, all the staples of that sort of era. I just fell in love with straight away, and I've told this story quite a few times, but basically on my 11th birthday, my dream present would have been a white Les Paul, like Steve Jones's from the Pistols.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
That's what I wanted. That was the first instrument I wanted. Now, my dad was quite a traditionalist, fantastic guy, but he, as a lot of parents did, in the late 70s, saw the Pistols as the Antichrist. And, listening to me, sing songs like Bodies and stuff. And when he'd been at school, he'd done a little bit of work as a drummer in like an army cadet band or something. Yeah. So he saw the drummer as being maybe the least, rock and roll in the band.
Oh dear.
See what he knows. So I woke up on my 11th birthday and there was a Premier snare drum.
Brilliant.
I didn't think I was going to get the white Les Paul because I knew they cost a fortune. But yeah, Premier steel snare drum on a stand, pair of sticks. I went, all right, I'll be a drummer then.
And that was that?
And that was it. And there was a friend of mine, Vince Clark, who lived down the road, who he got a guitar, electric guitar, and we just formed our first band pretty much straight away called It. And it was just us just hitting things really. I found a tape actually the other.
So just snare drum and guitar then?
Yeah. And he couldn't play chords and I couldn't play the drums.
Amazing.
So you can imagine. But that was the punk ethic.
Yeah.
So that's how it started for me, and then just gradually over the next couple of years, bless him, my dad. After that, the next Christmas I think it was, he because there wasn't much money sort of sloshing around, and he managed to find this old kit at this shop near to us. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was knackered. Somebody stripped all the coating off it, And at that time, this is going back to the the 80s. He went to a company called the Supreme Drum Company in London, and they're the only place that had rap.
Was that Lou Dias?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he bought some red wrap, and he re-wrapped this absolute piece of shit drum kit, and made it look okay. In fact, that was the second one. The first drum kit he just painted it blue, and I had a pair of bongos for toms. That was and a snare drum was on a piece of wood because he didn't have a bass for it. That was the first kit.
Lovely.
And then the second kit, was the premier one that he wrapped, and I used that. Still got pictures of me, playing that in my first sort of bands that we went to studio really when I was 14.
That's a lot of effort to go to, isn't it? That's amazing. I like that sort of story.
Yeah, when in hindsight, it was amazing. What he did to sort of help me sort of get to where I wanted to be, even with with a lack of sort of money to do it. His commitment was fantastic. I mean, Mum tells me he was up until 3 a.m. on Christmas morning, like wrapping this kit.
Really proud of it
and doing
lovely.
it. So I did that, and then just started joining bands. And the first serious band, not serious, was a band called Exodus, and not the American,
not the Bay Area thrash band.
No, we were before them. We started writing some songs. I think me and my brother, another guy, Richard Fox, and his girlfriend, and then went to the studio when I was 14 and did my first sort of 3-track demo with that.
Did you have any idea at that time, that this was going to be work for you, this was going to be your living?
No, it was probably like most kids of that age. I didn't practice that much. I was very lucky that I got to be pretty good fairly quickly, but I didn't practice. I started taking lessons when I was about 15 because I thought I'll be a session musician. So I started taking lessons, and they started teaching me all these rudiments. I'm like, nah, I won't be a session musician because I can't be arsed learning these things. In hindsight, I should have done.
Yeah.
But I joined a band, and I could play well enough to be in that band. And we were playing in pubs and stuff when I was like 15, 16, and I was loving that sort of, just going out there. So the idea of sitting, I talked to Steve White about it before. He used to sit for 6 hours a day practicing his rudiments.
Yeah.
And in fact, Ian Matthews, when he came up for a drum ed session, I said, because I didn't know anything about his history, and I said, "Oh, you like me, but lazy as a teenager, He went, "No, I was just absolutely." But I'm like, it's just me then. So I kind of grew up to be an okay drummer, but that worked for the bands I was in. And then I just gradually, through my teens, progressed through various bands, onto a band in my late teens that nearly got signed. With a singer called Francois, a French singer, who was a cross between Elvis and Anthony Kiedis. So Elvis quiff, acoustic guitar, but we did like funk rock, because that's when I first saw the Chili Peppers back in 87, 88. And we were doing well, we got some interest, and then one day we were going to go to rehearsal, and the other two members said, Francois has been deported.
And that was that?
He was over here illegally, back to Marseille. That was the end of that band, and I was sitting there going, what do I do now? And joined another metal band for a very short period of time, and then answered the ad in a music shop in Leeds for Embrace, or would become Embrace.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So obviously, before we get into that, who were your kind of drumming influences at this point then?
Well, because I've been asked that a lot, and thinking about it now, I think the reason I really got into the drums again was the Pistols, and it was Paul Cook, because the way he plays, and I was lucky enough to meet him a few years ago. Absolutely lovely guy, but just that straight ahead style,
no nonsense.
But there was that, and then my brother's sort of proggy rock side had come through, and then John Bonham became my hero. But I could do, no disrespect to Paul Cook's drumming, but I could do what Paul did. I couldn't really do what John Bonham did. So I just looked at him and went, I'll never be as good as that, but this is what I can really do.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of, but that was the great thing about punk. It was that ethos of, do what you do, and anyone can do it.
Because I've listened to a lot of your stuff over the years, and you are without doubt, and I mean this totally respectfully, you are a song drummer. You play songs. That's what you do. But with a great feel as well, and always great sounds as well. So was that what you always set out to do? That was that your kind of ethos?
No.
No?
No, I did. I set out with Big Spread, that band that we were in before. I'll just explain Big Spread, which everyone thinks is a hilarious title. It was Francois' idea of The Last Supper.
Oh, okay.
Big Spread. Okay.
But
Anyway.
yeah.
Anyway, but that was kind of very much Chili Pepper influence. So I was doing a lot of that funk stuff and some odd time signatures.
Okay.
So I went from that, then joined Embrace. And the first couple of years with Embrace, we did we were more goth really, and quite complex drumming, quite complicated drumming. And it was only when a certain group of songs were written, we basically we got this review saying we were a goth band, and we suddenly realised that I think we were to some degree. So we went away for a year and rewrote all the songs and came back with the sound that we have now. And that sound, as you say, you couldn't play, you couldn't overplay.
No.
So suddenly I had to go from being quite an overplayer to this real solid, and it took a while for me to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because at first we were in the studio, and like Danny and Rick were saying, just keep it solid. Some a few little bits here, roughs and stuff, but. It took me a while to go, gritted teeth at first going, God, it's a bit boring, this, isn't it? But then you hear it back in the song and you realise that it works, and then you play it live and everything sounds big.
That's the key. It's a satisfying thing to just to sit there and lay it down, and you just say, with all the other ingredients, it makes it sound huge. With the space makes it sound huge as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the space in the drumming means we can fill all the gaps with orchestras and guitars and everything else, which is what we always do.
Well, yeah, that's an anthem for you, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently we've done a few.
Yeah, one or two over the years, and still continue to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, the last album from last year.
Yeah.
And you move on. The style doesn't change that much, which I like, because I'm obviously, if you like a band, you don't want them to change that much, do you? Because you like them for a reason,
Yeah.
But some beautiful songs on that album.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah. And we're very proud of it, and it was done for us quite quickly as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, we have tried after the first album. When we came to the second album, we had a bit of a, we pushed back and tried putting a bit of funky stuff in there with Save Me. And we were so arrogant that it was kind of like, we can do what the hell we want. No, we can't, because it didn't sell as well as the first album. Because we came back with our second album with basically our guitarist singing a song with dreadlocks, and we just thought, oh yeah, we can do it once. And it was funny because the manager that we actually sacked after that, a guy called Jas Summers, very famous manager. He kind of said it was the wrong direction. And in hindsight,
so the difficult second album thing isn't a cliche at all, then.
No, because and it's the same reason everyone has that problem. Or not everybody. You spend X amount of years writing your first album, and then you release it, tour it, and your record company says, right, I want another album now.
Yeah.
And so you've got this limited time to write it, and we just went. I mean, I love the second album. I think it's brilliant. I love what we did with it. But commercially, it wasn't. It was still a success, but it didn't have the same trajectory that we were hoping for after the first album, and that's because we slightly moved away from that sound.
But it worked, didn't it? I mean, all the things you've done over the years, including a certain World Cup anthem.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone gets to do those. Do you remember doing that? Do you remember it at the time? What was it like when you were asked to do that?
Well, they asked us a couple of times, and
Really?
we weren't interested because none of us were football fans, really.
Right,
apart from Steve, our bass player. And eventually, when we agreed to do it, we said, "Well, we'll do it, but it'll be a song, that we've got, and it'll have the lyrics that we want to put in there." So Danny wrote some lyrics that they were kind of, because the song was "World at Your Feet," so it had a bit of a football element.
Yeah, of course.
But they kept coming back saying, "Oh, can you put score a goal and stuff like that?" And we're like, not if you want us to do it.
Yeah.
So we kind of did it, and we were promised the earth by a record company. Oh, if you do this, next time we'll sell millions. You'll be millionaires within a year. All this stuff. So which kind of, obviously as a youngest person, kind of tilts your head and you go, okay. But we did it, and even though the profile of the band went through the roof, the album sales slowed down. So it had a counter effect. And that's why after that album and after that touring campaign, we had a break for about 2.5, 3 years before we started even working on the next album.
To reset again.
Yeah. We'd I don't regret doing it, but it didn't do what we were told it would do. And a lot of the fans didn't like it because it wasn't overtly a football song.
Well, I like the song as a song.
Thank you.
Obviously, you've obviously got loads of highlights. You've had and still continue to have a great career with Embrace. Obviously, the new album, latest album, I should say. What's your, if you had to pick a career highlight so far, what would it be?
Well, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it, Matty? Because as you say, that there have been so many. I think in the early days, when we supported Bowie at Glastonbury on the main stage.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah.
And that was the year when everyone broke in, the last year before they got all the fence. So you're just looking out at about 100,000 people. We went on after the Happy Mondays, who were, we were massive fans of. So we were like, Jesus, what are we doing here? So that was a massive highlight. And then roll forward a few years, we did a couple of nights at the Millennium Square in Leeds, which is our sort of hometown. Incredible as well. It was lovely. Chris Moores came and introduced us on that. Which was, he says he can't remember the rest of the day.
I mean, I
know why.
That setting, I was going to talk about that as well. The setting, I mean, literally the backdrop from the stage, it looked stunning, didn't it? It really did.
Yeah. Did I say Peace Hall? I meant Millennium Square.
No, you said Millennium Square.
But that is, well, they both are.
Yeah.
Millennium Square, and then I was going to say when we did Peace Hall, whenever it was 3-4 years ago, now that they've redeveloped that, and it looks like some sort of Italian square. It's fantastic. And when we played it in 2019, I think it was the sunniest day of the year. It was just one of the most, and both my kids were then at an age where they were there and watching me. It was just incredible.
That must be a great thing to have kids there who appreciate what who are old enough to understand what you're doing. That must be a proud thing for you all.
Massively. My son's he's at BIM in Manchester studying drums.
Brilliant.
And my daughter, who's 17, she loves music, plays a bit of guitar, really good guitarist, but loves all the classics. She, Bowie and Mark Bolan.
She's got white Les Paul, has she?
Well, no, she hasn't actually, not yet. But Jeff Buckley, she's really loves Jeff Buckley.
Good taste.
I was lucky enough to see on his last tour over here, and. And she loves the fact that, and particularly through the code side of things. Obviously, I'm meeting loads of drummers. So I'll say, I'm going over to meet so and so tonight. Like it's Latham's next week, and she's like, God, come over. So she gets a buzz out of that as well.
We've mentioned code a few times, but we haven't really talked about it. How does a new drum head manufacturer materialise? I've often wondered how something like that happens.
Well, it's an interesting one because if you look at the main brands in the world, you've literally got three that people would know. Well, two people would know, and no disrespect to Aquarium because they're a bit smaller. But you've got obviously Remo and then Evans and Aquarium, and it was a guy called James Potts who was a part-time drummer in pubs, and one night he had a problem with the snare drum, his Remo head, that all the coating came off. Went back to the shop. They contacted Remo and said, it happens, brushed him off. And so I went home, drank a bottle of wine, went online, China drum heads, and just ordered some stock drum heads. They came over, he sold them all on eBay really quickly, unbranded, and then thought, well, I need a name. So he came up with a name Code. He got slightly better factory, and then he came to me as one of the bands that he really liked, and as a drummer, and sent me some and said, will you try them? And I was with Remo and had been for about 12, 13 years at the time. Great company. I'd never say anything against them. I said, well, I tried them. And I said, these sound okay, but I'd just come out of, there was a chain of pubs that I was involved with called Hop, that were venues and real ale pubs. And I just come out of that. And I said, I'm looking at something, to do, to invest in. And I said, look, rather than just, use the heads, why don't I come in with you and we'll... I said, but if we do it, it has to become a proper brand. So then we took fact-finding trips to China, Music China and Metal, the manufacturers, and found that the best manufacturers were in Taiwan, a lot better than the Chinese manufacturers that he'd been using. I found an incredible factory that were willing to take my ideas and basically have the design from the UK, but made over there.
This is exclusively for yourselves now. Nobody else gets their hands on any of these things.
The way that we make the rims, which has got the double knurled inside, that is no one else has got that.
Yeah.
That is us. There are other, I don't lie about it. There are other heads made in Taiwan.
Yeah, of course.
And they are crimped like ours are. Now, before I got involved with the drumhead side of things, I didn't know how a drumhead was made. I've been playing drums 25 years.
You're not really interested in it. It's a drum head.
So when I tried them and liked them, I'm like, yeah, I like them. Then I found out the difference, and then started looking into it, and realised that there's a lot of bullshit being, about the drum heads. A lot of it is how the drum is and how you tune it. I got them to do this double knurled thing so it grips the head better. And I think personally that crimped heads for me, they tune more quickly and they hold the tune better.
Yeah.
They probably haven't got quite the tuning range, and I'm happy to say that. But lots of the time that isn't a problem. And they tune quickly, and they're easy to tune. And for me, who, as I said previously, who had a problem with tuning for quite a while, to find something that is easy to tune.
Yeah.
It's good, and that's the feedback I get from a lot of younger players as well. I can put them on, and then they tune easily. So I basically, with James, spent a couple of years building the manufacturing, base to make sure it was right, getting the specs right, getting the look of the thing right, getting the logo right. To the point where about three years ago, something like that, we had a fully formed proper brand.
Yeah.
And now it's just about pushing it out and developing it. We keep the range very small.
But is the range going to get bigger, or obviously you've kind of got a head for every occasion anyway, haven't you? You've got enough to cover every style of music you'd want.
Yeah. Well, this is my thinking, because as a drummer, how many different types of heads can you need? If you have the right combination of batter and resonant head, and tune it correctly, you shouldn't need, and again, no disrespect to Remo, they've got like 50 ranges or what, I don't know. You don't need all those, you just need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people we work with, a lot of the distributors, actually beg us not to make the range bigger, because a lot of shops nowadays can't afford to stock.
Yeah. Commitment of it,
Yeah, it's a massive commitment if you've got all these different ranges. So I've got 2 or 3 of the things that are coming through at the moment, and then after that, we're going to leave it as that core for quite a time. Obviously, keep developing it, tweaking it, and hopefully making it a bit better. But no, we're not going to have loads of different ranges because I don't think. Well, I mean, look at BDC.
Yeah.
How many kit ranges are there? 2.
Yeah. Precisely.
How many do you need to create the sound that you want?
Yeah.
If you can't create, in my opinion, those 2 ranges could be used for any type of music in the world.
Yeah.
Good
point.
So why make things more complicated?
And did you enjoy getting involved in like the designer stuff? I know you didn't personally design it, but having a say in, I don't know, thicknesses or double plies and coated, and is that something? Did you get quite geeky into it? Or?
Yeah, but once I got into it, I loved it, and being able to just say, "Oh, I've had this idea," and then speak to the factory and say, "Can we try this?" Sometimes it's no, that ain't going to work, because we're restricted by the type of machinery, because it's not our own factory, but they make for us. So I love all that side of things, and what I love more than anything is meeting new drummers.
Yeah.
For my first 20 years in Embrace, we would just Embrace out there playing.
Yeah.
And I met a few drummers, fair enough. But now I'm meeting loads of people. And no disrespect to the rest of the band, band members, singers, guitarists, etc. The drummers are definitely the nicest people.
Yeah, no arguments from me.
and I've met so many lovely, fantastic people over the last 4 or 5 years, since we've been pushing it out there and getting great names on board. It's just a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to get the feedback, which helps me, make the range better.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love it. I've always wanted to be involved with making drums, and a few years ago I even thought about getting involved with the making of actual drums, but realised that people like Keith do it a lot better than I would ever do it. And also it would be a sort of half-assed attempt at bringing bits and pieces together and just, doing that. So yeah, I love the whole process. I love being involved with it. Always loved everything about drums. The rest of the band, they jokingly, they say as soon as you walk into the room, it's just drums, 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 drums. It's like,
That's what we do.
It's like, yeah, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. I mean, this ties in quite nicely with what we're doing today and where we are, obviously. But there's a lot of BDC artists who use and endorse your heads. So that can only help. When you get players of the likes of, I don't know, Russell Gilbrook, for example.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all about trusting your brand. And now we've been involved with Keith in Code as well. We've got this. There's a good family of people that we can talk to. Never push them onto them. It's always, would you like to try them? You can take them straight off if you want, but the majority of people tend to try them and go, yeah, they're cool. And we've picked up some great players. And it is all about trust, and we've got some big players coming up in the future as well. Good. So to announce. So it's what it's about. You want the kids to look up and go, oh, so-and-so, X, Y, and Z uses it. If it's good enough for them, then I should at least try it.
Yeah. So obviously, code aside, embrace aside, you're busy teaching as well?
Yeah, I've got my own studio and I still teach. I don't teach too many people. I keep it down to a core of about 10 or 15 students, just because I've got too much else to do.
Yeah, sure.
But I've always had a passion for, passing on the knowledge. And what happened with that was that, as I said before, I never learned all the rudiments and things when I was a kid. And I got to about 3 albums in with Embrace, and I suddenly realised I couldn't do what all my heroes like Bonham did. And I realised I'd never bothered learning all the rudiments. And I went back to a guy called Rich Wilson in Halifax, and in fact he came to see us at a gig, and I met him, and then I went to his studio, and he was teaching me like paradiddles. I honestly didn't really know the, and he was teaching me. I was like, and he goes, yeah, playing fast. I'm like, mate, yeah. And he was like, I've just seen you play in front of 3,000 people, and you sold X amount of albums, and you can't do a proper. I was like, I don't need to.
It's one of those things, like you were talking about Steve and Ian practicing. Let's be honest, the end result is the same. You've all been in, or are in, it's not in Steve's case, but in huge bands. So that, to me, the outcome is the same.
It is, but what I did then was I went back and spent 2 years learning what I didn't learn as a teenager, and that's when I started teaching, because then I could sort of go to to teach these young kids and say, look, trust me,
I've made these mistakes.
Learn it now,
and
you'll be a lot better drummer rather than waiting until you get older. And that's kind of what I use a lot. So, and for me, it's all about playing. You said about playing for the song. It is that. So as soon as I get a young kid or whoever, I get quite a few sort of middle-aged people who just want to pick it up, get a groove going, and then I put the bass on. I've got a bass through like a pitch shifter, so it's got like the sort of royal blood type sound.
Oh yeah.
Through 2 different amps, and I start playing along with them, and saying, look, there's no point in just sitting in a room playing drums on their own. You want to be part of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I do, and because it's all set up to record with Pro Tools in there, because I record bands in there as well. I record sort of bands that are sort of on the way up, do it really cheaply just to help them out, which I love doing as well, recording and mixing. Again, I was saying earlier to Beth, we were talking about cameras and talking about mixing, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know how to make a band sound good.
Again,
and it's
same thing.
It's like if it sounds good, who cares if you don't know the ins and outs of it. So I love doing that, and I spent 2-3 years as well doing talks in universities and colleges. In fact, I did one yesterday in a school in Halifax to kids who were just doing their options and thinking about doing music.
You obviously told them not to bother.
Said it's a waste of time. I said, go and read it. Have you seen a book called Kill Your Friends?
No, I haven't. No.
Right, read it. It's about the music industry in the 90s.
Okay.
And I think in the first couple of pages it says, if you're thinking about going to the music industry, don't. And it goes, no, I'm not joking, don't. But you've got to counter. Sorry, you can't. You don't want to dampen people's enthusiasm.
No, of course not. Of course not.
It's a very difficult thing to succeed at, without a shadow of doubt. We all know that. And luck plays a massive part. Massive part. But if you've got that, it's like when my son was going to university to study drums. I'm thinking it's going to be difficult, but he's got a passion for it. And for me, if you've got a passion for anything in life, then you should follow it, as far as you can. Really.
Absolutely. And you don't have to make a living out of playing huge gigs. You can make a living from teaching, from doing podcasting's a huge. There's so many options. You don't have to just be a rock star. That's
I look at me. I Embrace it isn't now. Isn't the be all and end all. I do other things, and as I was saying to these kids yesterday, it's not just about being the player in a band. You look at all the people that are connected. The techs and all. The set up the gear, the front of house engineers, side of house lights, blah blah. Yeah. There's a place in Wakefield now called the Backstage Academy. I don't know if you know about it, and it's basically. It's a huge rehearsal facility where all big like Coldplay, etc., will go and set up their staging and rehearse there. But they have an academy there called the Backstage Academy, and you can do a degree in basically learning about the rest of the music
business,
industry. So there are loads of different things you can do.
Because let's be honest, without them, you can't do what you do. It's as simple as that. It's a simple fact, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are thousands of musicians out there who are quite happy doing what they do.
Yeah.
I would still be doing the same thing, probably playing in pub bands, if I hadn't, done got to where we've embraced, just because I love playing the drums.
Totally, absolutely, totally agree. Now, I was going to ask what you did outside of music in your spare time, but have you got any? Do you have any?
Yeah, I think you don't. And again, Keith would agree with this. You don't really switch off. That's the problem. But outside, I'm just trying to think what I do outside.
If there isn't, it's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to make something up.
I mean, I love music.
Yeah, same.
So I listen to a lot of music. I listen to a lot of audiobooks now. Now I've got Audible. I've just done Shaun Ryder's and Bez's.
But that's interesting.
Both classics.
Yeah.
I'm doing Marquis Smith's at the moment, and I love listening and researching and film. Watching film and TV, and I'm pretty good at drinking as well.
It's a worthwhile skill to have, especially in this business.
Well, I've practiced over a lot of years.
There you go. Grade 8 drinking.
Maybe 9.
Look, Mike, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
You too as well. And thanks for doing it. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been fabulous. So hopefully we'll get to see you out and about with these new drums and see how they sound.
Yeah, well, they'll be debuted at I don't know when this is going to come out, at the our Peace Hall show in July, which again, I'm so grateful that's sold out. But the kit will be on the stage there, on the big stage the first
Question
time.
is, will it be a 22 or a 24?
Well, I think I'm going to stick with the 22 and see how we go.
Excellent stuff. Well, there you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that incredible episode of On the Sofa with the wonderful Mike Heaton. Thank you for watching once again. Don't forget to subscribe to all our social media. You will find the links in the description below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, BDCTV. We don't want you missing any of the fabulous content. Thanks for watching. See you soon.